So very happy to have you here, Kira. You've been having an exciting journey as well, from retail to IT and out in consulting in the past, then being a senior leader at LinkedIn, which will be interesting also to hear your insights in your talk now. We're having a panel later with an ex-colleague of yours still about LinkedIn Xing and how to get the most out of both platforms. But for now, really looking forward to have you talking a bit about your insights as a digital sales and team lead at the All for One group, and how we can connect digital sales with personal branding. So yeah, very much looking forward to your talk. I think we can take questions in the end after your talk again, and the stage is yours, so to speak.
Perfect. Thanks a million. Happy to be here and to share a few details about what happened in the past and what I can bring to this session. So really looking forward to that. My name is Kira from Hagen. I'm based in Düsseldorf, and you can see my LinkedIn, well, the headshot over here. So I'm currently the sales lead, team lead, and the LinkedIn alumni, as you just heard. And let's start with the basics. You can connect with me via this QR code on the right-hand side. As you can see in the background, I'm sitting at home, so everyone is working from home. I think it's pretty handy. And I think now it's even more important that we use those digital platforms we can benefit from to connect with each other and to at least build some kind of connection. And I think it's great to use LinkedIn for that. And in this case, I would like to introduce you to connect with me via the platform. I think it's the easiest via the code. Just use your camera. So let me just jump in. Just a quick info in terms of the agenda for today. I just introduced myself, so happy to answer questions at the end of the session. And I would like to go through the journey of personal branding and digital sales with you we have 45 minutes approximately, so we keep it shorter than it normally is. But we have two polls, so I would like to have one at the beginning and at the end, and I will show you the results at the end, so that's really important. I will not do a little break in between. It's at the end because I want to see how you develop and how you probably change your mind. We never know. So yeah, let me jump in. I think this person is really familiar for you. And if you talk about personal branding and branding in general, I think she's the queen of that. So my first question, it's actually directed to you without you giving me an answer. It's more like starting the right spirit. If you need some advice on life in general, would you take it from this woman? Give yourself 2 seconds. I probably think a lot of you would say yes, especially if you're familiar with her shows and how she works. I'm not saying her name yet, so whoever needs a bit of time to think about her, we get to the results afterwards. But who knows her or recognizes her, I think you can imagine where I want to lead to. The last, the next two persons or people we have here, what do those people have in common? Let that sink in. I think the first one at the very bottom is really clear. I think he looks familiar. The one on the left-hand side might be a bit tricky, but I'm pretty sure that after a few seconds you will know who I'm talking about. So yes, there is something really obvious. We talked about Oprah, we talked about Lady Gaga, which is the woman on the left-hand side, and with Barack Obama in center stage. And what do all those people have in common? Like all of them. You know who they are. And that's basically the quintessence we're talking about today. I think the word itself, personal branding, it's really self-explaining, but there's more behind that, because I also know it's kind of a buzzword if you don't really know how to, I don't know, take it, how you like to interpret it, if you like to work with it. So we want to at least make it a bit clearer and help you to start with the first steps, because The digital age also means that we need to be more present, not only in our small community, in our small cycle, but we need to go outside, we need to be vulnerable, and we also need to take care of the presence. We already have, for example, if people are Googling us, or we need to still build. So let's start with the statements. You know who they are. Well, the question is why? Because those are people that they're rich, they're famous, but they somehow made it into your head that you recognize them, that you align them with the story, that you align them with some qualities. For example, Oprah, she's really known for taking care of personal problems and having a fulfilling life. So I'm pretty sure you have those kind of stories in mind. And let's start right in. I would like to start with the first poll, and I'm pretty sure every one of you has a phone, well, in your hand, next to your laptop. So no surprise. It would be more surprise if you haven't. So please use your phone and scan the QR code and start with the first question. As I said, we will talk about the results at the end. So the first question is, how much time do you spend on your own reputation daily? So there are a few, like four things you can select from for time slots, and I would be happy to learn about your investment behavior in terms of your own reputation. And I choose this word wisely because I think it's really important to see it from that angle. I give you a couple more seconds and before we continue with the session. Okay, great, lovely. So let's jump right into the topic itself. You heard it already a couple of times in the first 4 minutes of this presentation or this session. So the word why. Why should I invest in a personal brand? And there's always a reason to say, okay, it's great to have a personal brand. It's a non-brainer, no-brainer. You should have it. It's crucial, but actually, why? So let's go deeper into the statistics and start with the structure. I would like to give you a rough structure for today's session. We start with the core, we start with the why, we have the how. So you learn more about that in a couple of minutes, and we round it up with a what. So keep it really short and sweet. 3 main topics. It's not that it's too overwhelming, but to have a good foundation for you to start with it, or to increase your presence, whatever your goal is. So that's the structure for today. Let's start with a really simple definition. I think it's really, really good to know that we're on the same page and that we know what we're talking about. And I would like to start with the first one. It's actually already 20 years old, so it's not that fancy new. It's something which been around for quite a while already. So the first definition is from David McNally and Carl Speak. From your brand is a perception or emotion maintained by somebody other than you that describes the total experience of having a relationship with you. You can also see underlined 2 parts of this definition, emotion and having a relationship, because they're crucial to build a solid personal brand and to bring that in your sales strategy and being successful in sales as well. So keep that in mind. The other one is my modern language, which is from Tom Peters. For the angst and self-reliant network, the word of mouth dependent, distinguished craftsperson. Brand you, who you are. Which also means when you see this definition, he talks about the personal brand as a product, something you build, something you craft. So we have 2 definitions from the 90s, actually, which made it into this century. So I like to lay our foundation on those ones and start from there. The why is really, really important, because it's important for you to understand why you're doing this and what you're doing and what the end result should look like. Because this is not a short-term thinking. It's not a short-term solution. It's something you need to build up. It's like a craft because it really takes time. So if you expect to see results next week or the next month, or even, I don't know, next 3 months, you need to be patient. And that's the reason why I need to have the why in the head and to remember this every time you're frustrated, for example. So I want to get that clear at the beginning. So we start with 7 reasons why you should build a brand around you as a person and not your company. This is really important. It's important for founders. It's important for people working at the company. So if you're an employee or if you're a founder yourself, you always have to center yourself and to think about you as a person. That's really, really important to clarify that. The first reason is your brand compounds instead of starting over with each job. So let's think about someone changing jobs, I don't know, every 5 years. And every time they change a job, they need to adapt a new brand around the company they're working in. So if you imagine they're coming from retail, like how I did in the past, and they move into finance, they basically need to change their whole personality just because of the field they're now working in. So that doesn't really make sense. So it's really, really important to find out who you as a person are and stick to that, even though you're changing jobs within a specific time span. The second one is your brand stays with you regardless of where you work. That's basically the same as it did, as it just said, but it's more like also the companies. So whenever you change jobs, you're not only changing your field, but you can also change a culture. And for example, if you grew up in a specific culture which is really outcome and KPI driven, and you come another culture which is really family driven and has a really close connection with your colleagues, you always have to stay true to yourself, because like the work is not you and you define the work. So that is really, really important also for your personal brand. Your brand develops connections, no transactions. So this is really the core of like building connections and staying true to yourself and to the people you're connecting with. So you can build up connections over time. It's not like that they depend on something in particular, like an environment or a job. It's more like you can build connections, they can grow with you. And this is really when it comes to building a healthy network. Your brand becomes your resume over time, because the people following you, for example, from the beginning, and they're with you right now. So they've already seen a quite development in terms of like your progress, your successes, your failures. It also depends how public you make it, but they can see you grow and they can see your resume over time. So it's really a good way to show your growth, to show people how you develop, what your skills now are, and what you did in the past. And it adds up over time. You don't have to start at zero every time you have a new job. So it's like a living document, just you as a person. Your brand unlocks new opportunities. I think it's really self-explaining, but I will do it again, because you might remember the sentence: if you're not visible on social media, you're not existing. And this is really, really important, especially now. We all know working from home, we have connection to coworkers, to friends, to colleagues via social media platforms, via Teams, via email. So we're not meeting face-to-face anymore. It's not like that I can go into the office kitchen, have a chat, and I find new opportunities, for example, from a job internally, or that I hear about a great opportunity somewhere else, or that I meet people on the street and they talk about something, for example, like a summit like this one is. So it's really, really important to also invest in a stable and solid digital brand, personal brand, that is accessible from several parts of the world and several parts of companies, communities, and which opens door for you, for example, for new jobs, speaker requests, people to help, to collaborate with. So it's always a step forward into a new opportunity. Your brand isn't controlled by HR. I think this is really applicable to people working in a corporate environment and where they feel that they're mainly posting, I don't know, approved content. It's really important that you remind yourself that you are your brand. So you can, on LinkedIn, on Xing, on YouTube, you can really decide how you position yourself, not only you in your job, but also you as a person, your skills. For example, if you're really great in painting and you just started a little side business, it's really, really up to you to position that and to really build a solid foundation with that. And the seventh one is your brand is your safety net. That sounds kind of crazy, but as I said earlier, in a really digital world, you need to be seen. So when we talk about, for example, if you lose your job to the current COVID crisis, and recruiters are looking for people for their companies, they want to find you. That's really important. And having a safety net in terms of a personal brand gives you the opportunity to be seen and to reach out to people and to already build something you can rely on. For example, that the people already know your qualities, that they know who you are as a person, that they know that you can speak about a topic in particular. So really see that as a safety net you craft on every day. I would like to do a little excursus in terms of digital sales, just showing you the importance of digital sales these days, especially in the last 6 months, 9 months, and remind yourself that 3.5 billion social media users are online. With the rising tendency, the corona pandemic underlines the importance of digital sales, especially a solid strategy. Just to show you a few numbers in terms of Facebook, the usage increased by 50 to 70%, depending on the on the solution of Facebook. For example, so the Messenger platform by 50%. In the US, this page visitor ratio also by 50% week by week. So that's a huge increase. And also to remind you that 81% of buyers prefer to interact with a strong brand. So this is really an alarm signal. On the right-hand side, you can also see the trend currently seeing on LinkedIn in terms of activities and especially members engagement. As you can see, it started in the 3rd week of January, so when the crisis really hit the markets. And it's increasing, it's still increasing, that people are coming to the platform. As you may have seen, the platform is not only growing in terms of members, but also in terms of content. Digital sales, this is a survey from September this year from McKinsey. And they surveyed around 250 decision makers in Germany. So this is especially for the German folks on this call, that 90% of B2B decision makers expect a remote and digital model to stick around. Which also means they expect you to be ready to provide digital sales strategies, and that your salespeople are ready to navigate to a really digital world now. So which also means getting in front of the crowd and being one of those, really position yourself. It is this still new market for some. This is crucial. I would like to talk about the sales funnel, but really, really shortly actually, because this is not a one-way street. And I want to cross it right here, because when we talk about digital sales in combination with personal branding, I think it's really important to think about your buyer cycle, and not only your personal buyer cycle, but only the buyer cycle of your target group. And this is the reason why. Still looking for the why? Have a look at today's buyer's journey. This one is really, really recent. It got published by Gartner a couple of months ago at the end of December. And you see the complexity. The start right over here, coming to the purchase decision. There are several steps and there's several ways someone needs to go back and forth until they're really ready to buy. And then keep in mind that 81% of those people already search online. So all of the steps, like a white paper download, web search, what do we have? Another web search, supply website visit. Those are all things they are doing on their own. And they also look for you on Google, on LinkedIn, on Xing. They try to be informed about the potential partner they would like to collaborate with in terms of a product. So you see the complexity, and you can make it easier for them, but also for yourself, if you create a strong personal brand and try to navigate them in a very early stage of their buying journey. So how can I build my foundation? I think that's a really popular question. And I would also focus on 3 core pillars. The one is you. What is my brand strategy? What am I standing for? Appearance. Is my social media profile strong? What's my first impression of visitors? You can see I start with questions over here. And niche. Who's my audience? Which hashtags work best for my field? Whom should I follow? Those are the 3 key pillars you can focus on if you start with your personal branding strategy, especially if you're a salesperson or a marketing person or someone who wants to promote their own startup or a founder. Be clear about these 3 key parts of a social or a personal branding strategy. Let's start with a you. Actually, that's the most important part of every personal branding strategy. And ask yourself the question, what should we know about you? So what are you? Who are you? Where do you live, for example, or what you're standing for? What are your core values and how you want them to get across? Create a storyline around them. For example, I can share a few experiences from my side. I stand, for example, for a healthy understanding of mental health issues in the workplace. So this is something I promote on a regular basis and also talk about that and have that as a storyline in my posts. So think about your values, about things that are very important to you, write them down, create an Excel sheet, which sounds a bit complicated, but it's very beneficial, and write your key points down and break them into smaller ones. Who will get the most value from interacting with you? That's a good question. It also depends on your strategy. So what type of free content could be helpful and for whom? It really depends how you like to get across. So who you like to interact with? Are those potential prospects or people you like to sell to in the future? Or are those people you just like to learn from? So think about this part of your strategy. And when I talk about free content, we know a lot of people building white papers or guidelines for you to use, for example, on social media or a speaker keynote request, something like that. Is this really you, or would you just talk about the topic you're passionate about? How much time can I invest? I think this is really, really critical because it really takes time to build a personal brand. And you cannot do this via, I don't know, spending 10 minutes per week on that, because it really, really takes time. And the algorithm on every social media platform is really strong. It's even if it's YouTube, if it's Pinterest, if it's LinkedIn, Xing, all of them are driven by an algorithm and how much time you invest in that. So have a look on that. And yeah. And how do I measure my success? I think it's really important, especially at the beginning, or if you restart, that you set yourself some goals. So for example, find some KPIs you like to focus on and stick to them for a period of time. For example, if you say you have 3 months and you like to increase the engagement rate on your posts. So what are your engagement rate KPIs? For example, those are views, those are likes, those are reactions in general, comments, and go deeper and try to understand what you really, really care about. Let's start with the basics. The brand, this is you. And in this case, we have 4 core pillars, but I think it's also easy to understand. We talk about your image, and this can be both-sided. The image is, on the one hand, it's your photo. So how do you look like? How do you present yourself? For example, social media. Are you more like a fancy person, or are you really showing are you very professional? Or the image can also be your reputation. So what's the first impression people have on you in their heads when they hear your name? Your mission. What is your mission? Do you have a specific goal in your daily interactions? So where do you like to see yourself in terms of bringing value to a community? your values. What are your core values? What are you standing for? Are you standing for leadership? Are you standing for community? Are you standing for feedback, open, honest? Are you standing for helping other people? So that really, really depends on you and where you feel, in which field you feel comfortable. And your vision, it's really, really important to also have a vision in mind, because as I said earlier, it's not a one-way street, especially not in sales. And it's really important to take time and take one step at a time and to have a strategy in mind. So where do you see yourself in 1, 3, or 5 years with your brand and strategy? Would you like to be a public speaker? Would you like to write a book? Would you like to help people? So what do you have in mind in terms of your vision, and have you already built your path to that? Appearance, I think it's really self-explained for everyone who ever created a LinkedIn profile. This one is LinkedIn as an example, but you can really use it for every kind of social media profile. So it's really about a few key core elements you need to take care of. The first one is about your photo. It's really easy to connect with someone when you see their face. So in terms where we don't really meet each other face to face anymore, at least for a while, make sure that you're seen with a full photo, that people can connect with you, and that they have a good first impression of you. So having a blurred picture with a crazy, distracting background is maybe not the best idea. Location, add your location, because it helps people to interact with you, especially in a more targeted way, and it opens door for opportunities in your area. Because you can see, for example, I'm based in Düsseldorf, and I also have a connection to people living here, working here, and it's great to also use that and to meet up or to talk about specific events, for example, in your area you can be invited to. Summary, this is really important because it can show who you are. I'll give you a few more details in the next slide. And the experience, as you can remember, it's like the core functionality of having a social media profile, especially in a professional network. So start with your most recent professional experience, talk about your success and what type of value do you bring to the company, to the community, because you're standing for some value you bring to the people and you can provide people with. So remind yourself of that and position it in your experience. The appearance is also point 5, 6, and 7. Images and videos, it points of a character and added human touch with videos and images, because authenticity is key, and you want to be seen as someone who's trustworthy, who stands for a specific topic, is an expert, and you can really create this environment and this authenticity by adding pictures and proof of what you're doing. Education is a good way to show what you did in the past and how you build up your expertise, but you can also benefit from alumni groups and connect with like-minded people. And skills and endorsement, it's really build credibility through adding your skills and get endorsed from former business partners, colleagues, and you can also get recommendations from former business partners and colleagues, and you can really ask for them. It's really, really great to reconnect with people, to talk about, for example, the former experience you had together, and to get a recommendation for them, and vice versa. So present your career snapshot. The career snapshot is the summary I just mentioned earlier. And here are 4 parts you can take care of, you can focus on. The first one is your passion. One sentence about what your passion is and what drives you. Are you proud of something in particular? Are you an expert in a specific field? Talk about it. It's like your elevator pitch. You can go to someone and you can show them the summary and don't know immediately who you are. Background, give a short summary about your professional background, experiences. It doesn't need to be the professional background necessarily. It can also be about your volunteering projects, or for example, if you published a book or if you've been part of a podcast, but just show a few examples where you're coming from. Company, if you like, display your company's core service and also where you are located within this. So it's very great to position yourself as an expert in the company and in the industry as well. and also leave a call to action. For example, share your professional email address, link to your website, an article you publish, a podcast. I also added a little note before you reach out, please add a little note to the connection request, because if you receive a connection request from someone not with a little note, I think it's super unpersonal, and I really try to avoid that by adding that to my summary. And a tip, learn the language of your niche and make sure you can be found more easily, because the summary part benefits from SEO, and you can pick relevant words for your summary and can interact with people who are looking for these words or parts of that in particular. So benefit from your features section and stories. Actually, those are two parts that are relatively new, especially the stories part. And I start with a question you can ask yourself. So what's your own social media usage consumption on other platforms? I would say Instagram, I would say, I don't know, Twitter, Snapchat, TikTok. So how do you interact with people over there? And can you take advantage of this for positioning yourself, for example, in a more professional environment? And one of those is you can use the feature section on LinkedIn. It's right below your summary, so you can post content and pin content that is really important to you and that it's something you like to be seen by other people visiting your profile, so you can really shape the first impression people having of you. And the other one is in, I think it's a couple of days, a couple of weeks at least, you can add stories to your LinkedIn profile. So this is one of the most recent features of LinkedIn, and you can then give people more insights in your day-to-day work life, or if, for example, if you're a freelancer, you can share your expertise, you can share projects you're working on and really build up this personal brand. So finding your niche. This is not only important in personal branding, but also sales. So you can see a lot of similarities here. When it comes to finding your niche you like to focus on, pick one main topic, for example, marketing, finance, recruiting, HR, education, or in my case, digital sales or the SAP environment. Go into more details afterwards. For example, you have the main topic marketing, you have 3 subtopics, social media, branding, B2C marketing, and choose one of them. And afterwards, you can look for 10 people standing out in this niche. You find them easily because they're all over the platforms. You follow 20 to 30 people like their posts, send a little note along. I think this is really, really important because you not open a door, but you also knock before that. So always have this little picture in mind. Use icebreakers and please don't sell. Repeat this once per week at least. And you can also pick up their hashtags, learn your target group's language, and use around 3 hashtags per post. So what is the key? So we already covered the why, the how, and the what. And the what will focus on content and what to use to connect digital sales and personal branding. So how to start? You see this little kitty over here. I think a lot of people feel like that when they talk about personal branding for the first time, because they really don't know where to start. Like it's a long journey, and you need to take care of a lot of things, and you need to plan ahead. But once the first step is taken, it becomes more easily. So don't be afraid, and just start with the things we will talk about in a second. The core pillars, we have 3 again. So what's the content? What's my channel? What type of content aligns with my niche? So again, think customer concentrated, focused, and remind yourself who you're talking to. Engagement, besides publishing content, be proactive, engage with your audience. So it's not really beneficial if you post something and you really don't interact with your network or people you admire, you like to learn from. It's really being about proactive. And tracking, get a deeper understanding of your content's reach and the interactions with your ideal target group. So we already covered the KPIs at the very beginning. And tracking of content and your content's reach is one of the ways to understand how you're performing, how your content performs, and how your digital brand, well, personal brand is building up. And let's start with the content and the right platform to choose for. So which channel is the best for me? I gave you a little selection on the right-hand side. There are plenty of options. So you can see something like Snapchat, Pinterest, Twitter, Xing, YouTube is even a really popular way of positioning yourself. LinkedIn. So there are several options, and you have to choose at least one of them. Better 2 or 3, because it also makes sense to target different people on different platforms, even though your personal brand will stay the same. So ask yourself, is it a blog you like to add, for example, or would you like to participate in a community? I just gave an example here, Sales Hacker, because it's mainly a community of salespeople. So if you're someone focusing on salesperson and you're selling to people in the sales field, maybe that's a great way to be a part of that community, learn from them, and really build up your brand over there, especially as an expert in sales. What type of content aligns with my niche? So be aware what they like and make it easy for them to like you. So articles, posts, podcasts, videos, keynote slides, webinars, those are all options you can use. So pick at least 1, 2, or 3, but not that many, because you don't want to confuse yourself, and really plan ahead, and also think about how much time it takes for you to, for example, create a post or create a video or create an article, and calculate that into your time investing at the very beginning. Content for your audience. I just give an example from my own work, because as I mentioned earlier, I work with a great team, digital sales team. We built that last year. And I think it's really important, but also I always try to focus on that when I interact with my audience, that I'm authentic and position myself. So people like to get to know me. That's not only the case for me as a person, but also for other people. So whenever you're active on a social media platform, it doesn't really it's not really important which one. It's just like important that you pick one at the beginning. Benefit from a human touch. It's a photo, video, and also know that they perform at a higher view and engagement rate. So posts with images get us twice as many comments as text posts. So text only is not always the best solution. Videos are 5 times more likely to get comments, and overall LinkedIn videos are earned 3 times more engagement than text only posts. But I think it's really important to also show your face, show that you're there, show that you're authentic, and yeah, show a little sneak peek into what you're doing in your daily job or what you're passionate about, and let people be part of that. Content for audience. This is a little tip I've seen several times already. I will actually share 2 with you to get more engagement. One is hook lines. So because getting your audience attention is really hard these days, even though you're focusing on a niche only. So hook lines can help you catching your reader's attention while scrolling. And I will show you an example in the next post. And maybe you already recognize it in my post on the previous slide. The strategy works best when you have a text-only post, you place the hook line on the 5th line of the post, and for videos and pictures and articles on the 3rd line. And the trick is that you place a hook, and people like to learn more, that they're curious, and they click on the See More button, and therefore are more likely to engage with your content. And the second tip is white space and waves, so you can combine that. And it's really important to create content which is easy to digest and which therefore drives activity. So be mindful of the human's attention span. It's 8 seconds. And well, unfortunately, the goldfish is better. They have 9 seconds. So this also needs to be calculated in when you write a post or when you write an email, so that you really have in mind how people react to long text and to long sentences. So use white space between your sentences, make it easy for them to read and to follow what you're saying, and create a reading flow between a longer and shorter sentence. Work with catchy emojis if you like. So it's really up to your taste. But I like to jump on this example over here. This is someone who's really, really known for a great personal branding strategy. And if you want to have someone you like to look up to, it's Justin Welch, and he's an expert in that. He really positioned himself with those catchy lines, with white space and waves, and you can see it over here. He created a great flow by combining shorter and longer sentences, and he leaves a lot of space for you, that you have time to read and that you're not overwhelmed by a huge text block. So this one definitely will drive engagement and makes it easy for the people to interact with you. Be smart about your content production, as I mentioned earlier, especially if you work in sales or in every other field of a company and you would like to invest in personal branding. Plan ahead, because it can be really overwhelming. And when you don't know where to start, it's great to have a plan prepared. So be smart about that. And you can record, for example, a larger item of content, for example, if it's a keynote, if it's a longer video, it's an interview or even a podcast, and you can cut them into smaller pieces and build your strategy for the week, for the month around that. So whenever you have a pattern, for example, in different content pieces, pick them out and distribute it on all the social media platforms you're using. For example, if you've chosen 2 or 3, it can be Instagram, it can be Twitter, it can be Facebook, LinkedIn, so whatever you prefer, and really distribute it all over those platforms. And don't do it more than 3 times per day, because otherwise it's too overwhelming and the people are not really seeing it. So it kind of depends on the algorithm. And it's really important to also stay ahead with that. So it's not that beneficial if you do it once or for 1 week. So you really have to create a habit out of that. And I think one of those heroes really having an amazing or a great name in this field is Gary Vee. So you can see the little image on the right-hand side, trying to position your content strategy in a really, really simple way. So engagement. One of those things people ask me really, really often is like, how do I start? Like, I don't have that much time. Well, I get that. It's the same for me. So there's a little tip for someone who has been the former CFO of Instagram, Kevin Systrom. And he just said in an interview a couple of years ago, I think it's been 2 years ago, if you don't want to do something, make a deal with yourself to do it at least 5 minutes. And after 5 minutes, you'll end up doing the whole thing. So if you struggle to even start and you're not sure about where to start, jump right in, take 5 minutes, and you will see after a couple of minutes that you're really getting in the flow and you like to finish what you just started. And just because the people follow you and you're posting doesn't mean they're here to stay. Engage with them via like the post, and the more to interact with them, with relevant people, the more views you'll get. Comment and show genuine interest. I think it's really important, because social media in every way is a real-time newspaper. So there's so much content to consume, so much to learn, and you will find a topic you can react in a really authentic way to. And also celebrate with people. They get promoted, they celebrate their work anniversary and start new jobs. So take this chance and engage with them. And if the time is right and the situation is right, approach them directly, tag them in posts, sending short messages. And this is really important for sales, especially if you have already built a brand and people are more likely to interact with you. But if you're completely new to a field and you approach them with a cold message, the chance is high that they basically delete your request and they're not really willing to talk with you, especially if you're too salesy in the first message. And yeah, keep that in mind. Tie your content to the buying stages. This is one is related to keep the content strategy of yourself and a personal brand combined with the buying stages of someone looking for a product to buy. So the first one is to build awareness. We have something like blog posts to secure leads. You can, for example, hold webinars and you can see the attendance rate, and you can also provide ebooks and guides. To nurture leads, it's, for example, also blog posts and short articles and case studies, which are always a great way to give a proof of concept about what you're selling or what you're standing for. And to convert leads, it's you can see it over here, case studies with 23%, and webinars are a great way to tie the people and to really guide them on the way to buy from you. This is really important to have in mind, because you never know where your prospects are in terms of buying cycles. So you better prepare content for all of those 4 stages and post it within the week. And for example, if you have someone speaking with for a ride already, send them a case study and just out of the blue and try to give them something instead before just asking for the next meeting. So really provide them with knowledge and information, and be ready to guide your prospects, not only with your personal brand and your expertise, but also with the right content at the right time. And the best time for engagement for your audience is a LinkedIn example. You know, there are a lot of studies around engagement on the platform. What's the best time to post? We have Wednesday, we have Thursday, we have Friday. You see it's mainly in the morning or around lunchtime, because that's normally where we all have our phones next to us, where we play around, where we scroll. And actually, worst time for a post is Sunday, because you know that on Sundays you like to rest. You don't really want to play with your phone all the time, or at least not think about work. So really keep that in mind. I think it's a great guideline. So tracking, let's dive into the last part. Tracking is really important, especially if you're new in the field, and when if you like to understand if you're making an improvement, or if everything stays the same. So on LinkedIn and also on Xing, you can have a look about who viewed your profile. In this case, it's a LinkedIn example for the last 90 days. And you can see insights, for example, how they found you, and what kind of role they have. So it's really great for you to see if you target the right people, and also who visiting your profile. Search appearance, it's the number of times your profile appeared in search results during a given period. So there you can see what kind of keywords they're using, and you can also adapt, for example, your text in your summary or on your profile to avoid those keywords, or to position yourself even better. So as I mentioned earlier, it's SEO optimized. So if you want to be found for a specific topic, for example, digital sales, make sure it's visible in your profile at least several times, and that you can really be found easily. And tracking is also post view. So it's on a more micro level that you get a better understanding about the post you're trying to engage your audience with. In this case, as an example, I posted 2 weeks ago, as you can see on the time tag over there, with the reaction 184, 17 comments, and over 7,000 views. And for me, it's really important to understand how the people are interacting with my post. Am I writing? Am I directing to the right people? Am I talking to the right people? And how is my reach improving or not improving, and what can I do about this? So just highlighting those. So you're almost there. So the sales is around the corner. That's the reason why I would like to almost finish. We're not finished yet, but I would like to almost finish with a second question. How much time would you like to spend on your own reputation from now on? So maybe you did a little mindset shift. So we don't know, but let me see. Let's wait a few seconds. And let's go to the basics. Get the basics right. So those are the 5 tips you can take out of this session, I hope. Get the basics right. No one wants to be sold to, not even you. No, you're not too late. Do it now, because I've heard a lot of time it's too late. A lot of people are on social media already. No, there are more to come. So better start now and make it easier to love you. So have a strategy in mind. And think long-term. The most important advice is that a solid personal brand takes time, but once built, sales comes easily. So you can really even your path to an easier sales strategy when you take care of your personal branding. Yeah.
Great. Thanks a lot, Kira. That was quite a knowledge bump here and there. A lot to take in. I think, I mean, we also do this day to day, but I feel for anyone else, it can be quite a lot. I've got 2 questions already here. I would like to ask you. Katja was asking, if you're not quite sure about your brand, is it worth to ask colleagues, partners, family? What would you recommend, basically how to fix your personal brand milestones?
Yeah, absolutely. So start with the people you know best, because most of the time they're the ones who are most honest. So they will tell you where your flaws are, where your strengths are. So start with them, but also reach out to people. For example, if you have a mentor, that you just play a little role game and try to understand what you're good at and what type of topic you're passionate about.
How did you went about it in the beginning?
About my own personal brand?
No, I mean, in essence, who did you ask, or how did you?
Actually, it came with the people I interacted with. I was really lucky to work with inspiring people, to have a really inspiring group of friends around me, and I took a lot of knowledge from them, and I still learn from them. And so my personal branding is still changing a few things here and there, but it really started with friends and people I work with.
Perfect. Then there's another one, it's like my brand, like your personal one versus the company brand. Where do you make the distinction, or where would you say is a critical limit reached? Katja is making here an example, especially regarding political statements. If it would represent my value, but maybe critical seen by others. How do you go about it, or how have you seen it also? I mean, you mentioned good examples out there. Some, they don't take, let's say, any limits. They just blast it out. But what's your approach to that?
Well, first of all, I would to find out if your company has some regulations. So what's the regulation in terms of posting on social media and making statements, and also reach out to them, and if you don't have it, to ask for specific guidelines. And as I mentioned earlier, if you position yourself as a person and not necessarily tied to you as an employee of a company, you can talk about you, your impressions, your emotions. That's absolutely fine. It's just really important that you don't bully someone, that you don't harass someone, but always keep a professional, great standards, which doesn't damage your company's reputation and not yours as well.
Yeah. How you go about that when you also teach that within, for example, the All for One group? Do you see a lot of people afterwards, they're taking LinkedIn full on and jump right into it? Or do you have to remind them a few times that, guys, it's a 5-minute thing? No, go ahead.
Well, I not only do it with All for One, but a lot of people in my network. And I have to say I have a great team, which picked it up like super quickly. They're really into the topic, and a lot of people in the group, they really bought in and they invest in that. But it also always depends on your personality, if you see a benefit in that or not. I cannot force someone. It's more like if you see yourself in this personal brand strategy, I think it's super beneficial. But if you're not a person for that, it doesn't make sense to push someone starting with that.
Yeah, so like, for example, if your company right now that people have time set aside to go over the personal branding and put time into that, because we've seen that a lot, that like companies, especially people, they they don't have time, right?
Mm-hmm.
They have other million other things to do, especially the higher up you go, obviously in the hierarchy. How do you say, like, let's say, find best practices, or how you go along with that within the All for One group, or also in the past with the other companies you've been with?
Well, in all the companies I worked with in the past, so actually through the row, we will always try to teach people in terms of how to use it. So we have internal sessions. We have like lighthouse teams, so they try to path the way how to do it the best for the company and for those specific teams. But it really depends on the team itself. So there's no, like, I cannot say you have to take 5 minutes there. It's more like how you adapt the strategy.
That makes sense. Cool. I think we can wrap it up. I haven't seen any other questions so far. Any last words from your side, or what do you want to share?
I just want to share the result of the last question because on the poll, and
it didn't actually work for me.
Exactly.
I tried it.
Yeah, the first one didn't, but the second did. So I'm really happy about that. So the second one was about how much time we like to spend from now on, and 67% said 5 minutes, 50 minutes said 17, and 60 minutes also 17. So I definitely see a bit of a bit of hope in terms of personal branding.
Where are you in that range?
Oh, daily, I'm now on 15. But invested more in the past. So, but no, I'm on 15 minutes per day.
Cool. That's a good one. Yeah. If you can get along. Are you actually posting articles and everything in that time, or you set time aside separately for that?
Like I do it, I love to do it in my free time actually. So, but I have a structure, so I know which topic is focused on for which week, and I interact a lot with images and try to work with catchy texts, and yeah.
So you have like your own content strategy plan.
Yeah, you can say
that. That's good. Well, enjoy your free time with that for sure. We hope to see more of that from you, and yeah. All in the audience, feel free to connect with Kira afterwards. Also, if you stay around, Kira, if there are any more questions,